Just a minute. Within 1 minute, I'm going to start. Yes. Right. Yeah. This is very important topic for your examination point of view. Consumer surplus we are going to discuss now. This concept, no, first explained by Dupit, French economist. Later, it developed by Marshall related to consumer surplus. Marshall, no, he has written a paper, Principles of Economics. In his book, he clearly explained about the consumer surplus. Yeah. So, Principles of Economics, in this book, he has explained about the consumer surplus. What is consumer surplus? Okay, this is very important. Simply, we can say that the difference between price, which is, consumer is prepared to pay or consumer is willing to pay and actually paid. The difference between willing to pay and actually paid is called as consumer surplus. In a simple way, for example, you are ready to give 50 rupees for in a product. In the initial stage, you don't know the price of that particular product, but you are ready to give 50 rupees to that particular product. So here, if you go and ask that particular product, if that person gives you, with 40 rupees of that product, then that 10 rupees is your surplus of consumer surplus. Getting my point? So that is consumer surplus. So what is consumer surplus? Once again, I'm telling the difference between willing to pay, particularly it is related to the consumer. Consumer is willing to pay and actually paid. Consumer is willing to pay and actually paid is, we call it as consumer surplus. Here, one example is that 1 kg of kg of salt, the consumer is willing to pay 20 rupees for salt, 1 kg of salt, but he actually paid only 15 rupees. Then that 20 rupees minus 15, the margin is 5 rupees, right? That is, we can say, or we say that is consumer surplus. Okay, so here from the table we can understood clearly. This is quantity of salt, number of kgs, and the prices of the consumer is willing to pay. When it is 1 kg, consumer is willing to pay 20 rupees, but actually market price is 14 rupees. So 20 minus 14, then remaining that 6 is the consumer surplus. Getting my point? So here, at the same way, whenever there is an increase in the quantity, consumers willing to pay, when we observe, it is changing. Then the market price is the same. When the quantity of salt, when it is 6 kgs, consumer is willing to pay 11 rupees and actually paid 14 rupees. Consumer surplus is minus 3. From the diagram, we can observe DD is demand curve, which indicates the consumer is willing to pay. This line, consumer is willing to pay. So in y-axis, consumer is willing to pay, and market prices we are measuring, and x-axis quantity of demanded. Quantity of demanded. So when we observe this, consumer is willing to pay actually OD amount of price is ready to pay, but actually for this this amount of quantity, he is willing to pay OD amount of money he is willing to pay, but actual price is OP amount. Actual price is OP amount, but willing to pay is OD amount. OD minus OP, so he will get DRP. This portion we call it as consumer surplus. Once again, I'm telling this diagram. OD amount of money is willing to pay for example, it is here, it is Q for OQ amount of quantity. He is paying, he is ready to pay OD amount of money for OQ amount of quantity, but actual price is OP amount of. So OD minus OP, we get this portion DRP, that is consumer surplus. That is consumer surplus. Simple way I explained, you have to remember. There are certain assumptions are there. The utility can be measurable. It is related to when we are telling utility can be measurable, it is related to the cardinal approach, because ordinal approach we cannot measure, only we can compare with one another. The product, which one is giving more benefit to the another one, or which one is getting more satisfaction than the other commodity, that we can say that is ordinal. But here we are telling cardinal. What does it mean? The utility can be measurable. So another one is no changes in income and taste and preferences of the consumer. Income and taste and preferences are constant, no changes. If the income changes, then the surplus maybe changes. Right? So here these are the constant, taste and preferences. Along with that, income is constant. So commodity, when we are talking about the derived, the utility can be derived from one commodity that is independent to the another commodity. There are individual commodities are there that satisfaction or utility which are deriving from each utility or each commodity is different. Okay, no substitutes are available, no alternative commodities are available, and also marginal utility of money remaining constant. These are the assumptions. And when we are talking about the importance of the consumer surplus, choice of taxes, particularly with the help of this concept, the consumer has to sacrifice how much amount of for the utility from the commodities, and he has to pay direct tax which is imposed for utilizing of goods and services, and also guides of the government. Government provide subsidy particularly to the industry if they are getting losses, to overcome that losses, and encouraging the industries, governments are providing some kind of subsidy, and also it use the value of an exchange and monopoly pricing, welfare, particularly consumer surplus is it indices welfare of the commodity, that is related to the consumer surplus. Okay, so when we are talking about the another topic, we discussed this indifference curves. Last class we have discussed how the indifference curves are downward slope from left to right. What are the properties, and how the consumer is going to be equilibrium with the help of the indifference curves we have seen. So today we talk about the production function. Here production function, we are talking about production function. It means the technologically production that implies the transformation of physical resources into physical output. We call it as production. Simply we can say that it is the relation between a technical relation between inputs and output. We call it as production function. Or the functional relationship between inputs and output, we call it as production function. What does it mean? The functional relationship between inputs and output. With the help of the factors of production, they are going to be produce goods. That is production function. See, when we talk about the production function with mathematical equation, when we write Q is output is a function of A, B, C, D. Okay, here the Q is the output, and A it is a F is a function, and A, B, C, D that represents the various inputs which are influencing the output. So it may be labor, it may be capital, and technology. So here the particularly the production function, the relationship between inputs and output, we call it as production function. There are two types of production function when we classified: short run as well as long run. The short run production, particularly, it is the capital such as plant and machinery, equipment, which all are fixed. It is not possible to change this technology due to insufficient of time. That is why we are telling short run. In the short run, it is not possible to change the technology. That you have to remember. So these factors are fixed, which includes factors of production. Some factors are fixed, not able to change because due to short period of time. Land, managers, administrative staff, you know, these are fixed in the short run. So when we are talking about the short run, only one variable that can be changed. With the help of that variable, production can be increased. All other factors remaining constant because due to short period of time. And the another one is long period, long run. All the variables are we can say that the producer can change all the variables due to because of uh, long period of time. All the factors they can be change, vary for all the inputs. What does it mean? Factors of production, it may be fixed capital, as I said, plant and machinery equipments, and also land and managers administrative. These all the there is a chance to change because it is a long run period. So here all the factors are variable factors. All the factors are variable factors. So here when we are talking about the short run production function, it is related to the law of variable production function. Law of variable production function because the production function only one unit of labor is required to change to produce one or additional unit of output. That may be vary substituting factors. In the case of variable proportion, the production function, which is produced with different combinations of input. So here the isoquants that shows various combinations of input, particularly labor and capital, how they are going to be utilize this capital and labor and how they are producing the output. This isoquant explains. So here the isoquant, particularly in the production, when we observe the indifference curve that is related to the consumers, when we observe isoquant which is related to producers, you have to remember. So isoquants are related to producer. So producer, how is producing goods with the help of inputs, capital and labor. So these isoquants represents all the combinations of two factors or inputs which are produce a given quantity. That is explains the isoquant. So here this curve downward slope from left to right, this we call it as isoquant curve. When we are talking about the isoquant map, see these curves are similar to the indifference curves, but that are related to the consumer, and these are related to the producer. The isoquant, higher the indifference curve gives higher satisfaction, lower the indifference curve gives lower satisfaction in indifference curve we have seen. At the same, here also, higher the isoquant give higher level of production or output, lower the indifferent isoquant curve give lower the output or quantity of output. So from this, IQ gives less output than the IC2 IQ2 gives less output than the IQ3. So from this, IQ4 is giving more output than the remaining because it is higher than the remaining curves. That is related to the isoquant. So when we are talking about the marginal rate of technical substitution, MRTS, it is a concept, particularly marginal rate of substitution related to the consumption. So marginal rate of technical substitution that indicates that the factors which are substituting to margin without affecting the output. So between the factors, capital and labor, that may be varies. See, when we look into this diagram or table, there are different combinations are there, A combination, B combination, C and D. With the help of labor and capital, the marginal rate of technical substitution, capital and labor, the variation whenever the combinations are changing. For example, A combination they are using one labor and 14 capital. B combination it is 2 labor and 10 capital. So how much the marginal rate of technical substitution? For increasing the one additional labor, how much the capital is going to be forgive. So here the difference between around 4, that is marginal rate of technical substitution. For increasing the one additional labor, capital is going to be lose. When we observe in D combination, labor is 4, capital is 5. Here the marginal rate of technical substitution is the difference between 7 and 5 is 2. This is related to the marginal rate of technical substitution. So this is a slope. Change in capital, change in labor, this we can get in the slope. When we are talking about the properties of isoquants, this is important for your examination point of view, these properties. There are, when we look into the indifference curves are negative slope, as I said. Here also isoquants are have negative slope. Particularly downward from left to right, same as indifference curve. This isoquants also downward from left to right. What does it mean? It indicates that the use of one increasing the one input, the other input necessary to decrease, as I said, marginal rate of technical substitution. To increase one labor, capital is decreasing. We have seen in the diagram, right? That is the reason why it is downward slope from left to right. Isoquants are always convex to the origin. Change in capital due to change in labor. So here we can say that the slope of isoquant, it measures the marginal rate of technical substitution. So it is convex to the origin, that we have to remember. So isoquants do not intersect each other. What does it mean? Same indifference curves also do not intersect each other, as I said, because higher the isoquant give a higher level of production or output, lower the isoquant give lower level of the output. So this IQ1, just to observe in this diagram, in this line, at any point gives same level of output. That is one side. So at point A and point B, point A is lower when we compare to the IQ2 point C. This is upper and this one is lower. The same curve when we observe in the lower part at point B, it is upper, the IQ2 is lower. So here one side is upper, another side is lower. See, this is upper and here it is lower. Same curve is giving two different levels of output. Here it is giving more output than the IQ1. When we talk about the lower part, this part IQ2 is giving less compared to the IQ1 at B. So this IQ curve should not vary the output. It gives the same level of output at any point of that curve. So that is the reason why it do not intersect each other. If they intersect each other, the output levels are different. One is giving higher, the same curve is giving the lower. So these two do not intersect each other. Then isocast line. When we are talking about the isocast line, the name given to the particularly it shows the combination of two factors that can be used to produce output. Two different factors, capital and labor. See, when we observe the combinations, A, B, C, D, E combinations, labor and capital. Any combination, when we observe combination A, labor is using 0 labor and capital is 20 rupees. This is the slope of the isocast line. Shifting the isocast line due to increasing the cost, capital and labor. This is if the decrease, it will be below the line. This is producer's equilibrium. As I said, in indifference curve, consumer's equilibrium with the help of the indifference curve. This with the help of the indifference curve, producer's equilibrium with the help of the isoquant. So there are two conditions are there. The slope of the isoquant, the marginal rate of technical substitution capital for labor must be equal to the slope of isocast line, that is W by R. And the another one is the condition, the slope of the isoquant at point of the equilibrium is convex to the origin when we observe that. So maximum output with financial constraint. So here when we observe the diagram, PL is the isocast line. With the help of the capital and labor, producer tries to minimize the cost and maximize the output. So at OM amount of capital and ON amount of labor, with the help of labor, he is equilibrium and getting maximum level of output with his given money. So this is the equilibrium point at part B is the equilibrium point. Then coming to the law of variable proportion. This is also important for your examination point of view. Production function, we have seen two types of production function, short run and long run. This law of variable proportion is related to the short run production function. The law of variable proportion also called as the production function with one variable input. We also called as one variable input. What is this law of variable proportion? Only one variable is changing, the remaining variables all other are constant. That one variable we say no labor. Labor is changing, then the remaining all the variables are constant because it is related to the short run period, not possible to change the technology, not possible to change the machinery equipment, not possible to change the no increase the land size of the land. So here the only one variable that is changing, that is labor. The law of variable proportion, we also call it as diminishing returns, that has been stated various economists due to various reasons. So law of diminishing returns, when we increase continuously the labor, production will increase, later on it decreases the production, total production. That is the reason why we are telling no diminishing returns. This law of variable proportion based on certain assumptions, particularly state of technology, which is assumed and unchanged. If there is improvement in the technology, the marginal and average products that may be raised instead of diminishing. There must be inputs whose quality is fixed, and this law do not apply for factors that are proportionately varied. Other factors are constant. There is no changes
क्या अभी जरा क्लास पर अभी जाके देख।
Somebody is talking. Please unmute. So here certain assumptions are based on these assumptions. This law of variable proportion will apply. So only one variable is changing, remaining all the variables are fixed or constant. So it varying one variable.
सर मेरे को समझ में नहीं।
Mahmadi, please unmute. Disturbance is coming. Please unmute. Right. So law of variable proportion. This law of variable proportion related to the agriculture, particularly because only one variable is right. So we are talking about the law of variable proportion. It is related to the agriculture sector because As I said, only one variable is changing, the remaining all factors are constant, the capital is, okay. So this law of variable proportion also called as the law of substitution. It indicates the technological relationship between physical input and output, particularly in the short run. In the short run, the factors of production are two types: fixed factors and variable factors. Factors of productions are two types: fixed factors and variable factors. So in short run period, not sufficient time to produce or introduce or to change any fixed factors, because it is short run. It is not possible to change the fixed factors. Only one variable factor or variable factors we have to change to increase the production. So short-term production function that indicates the pattern of changes of the total output, particularly the employing more of the other factor. So that is variable factor. Keeping all the factors are constant, that is fixed factor. So given fixed factor, increase in the employment of variable that leads to variation in the factors of combination. The law of variable returns or law of variable proportions that indicates there is a changes in the total output, there is a changes in the average product and marginal product due to variation in the combinations. So here we are talking about the law of variable proportion, increasing returns, diminishing returns, and negative returns. Whenever there is an increase in the labor, that is variable factor. Whenever there is an increase in the labor, how the total product changing, how the average production is changing, and marginal product, how there is a differentiation with the help of variable, that is labor. When there is a changing the labor, see when we observe, see if you observe this table, total production, average production or productive, marginal product. See, this is variable factor or variable, that is labor. When we increasing the labor, total product is different, increasing. At first initial stage, labor is 1 and total product is 3, average product is 3, marginal product is 3. When we talk about when we increase the labor, additional labor, total product increased, average product also increased, marginal product also increased. What is total product? With the help of the labor, we are producing the total product. What is average product? Total product divided by number of variables. That is how many are there the laborers we consider. That is average. For example, here at 2 labor, total product is number 7. 7 divided by 2, you get 3.5. That is average. How much the variation from the total product? How much the differentiation? That is 4. That is marginal product. So due to changes in the additional labor, how much the changes are happen in the total product? That is marginal product. Here, up to 3 laborer, there is a increasing trend of total product. Later, it is 4 to 7. At 7 labor, it is total product is maximum. When total product is maximum, marginal product must be 0. So that is the reason why it is 0. Here from 4 to 7, it is the total product is increasing, but decreasing rate. See, when we observe marginal product, at first initial stage, as I said, this is increasing. When we increase the labor, total product also increasing, but increasing rate. First variation is 3, second one is 4, third one is 5. The variation, the margin, it is 5. That is increasing trend. Later, this decreasing rate, increasing, but total product is increasing, but decreasing rate, it is increasing. See, the variation is 4, the variation is 3, the variation is 2, and here the variation is 0. Decreasing rate. Total product is increasing, but decreasing rate. Later, if we want to increase the additional labor, then in the particularly it is applicable in agriculture sector, as I said. Then the total product will be negative. Average product comes down, not negative. But this marginal product is negative. Total product is decreased, average product is decreased, only marginal product becomes negative, because whenever there is an increase in the laborers, additional labor, total product increase. At first initial it is increasing rate, and later it is decreasing rate, and decreases. So here, that is the reason why it is increasing trend. Second one is diminishing, third one is negative slope. See, this is the diagram. In the initial stage, this is first stage. This one is first stage, like increasing trend. As I said, increasing trend. Later total, this is TP, this is the average product line and marginal product line. From this diagram, when we can observe average product increasing, marginal product increasing, total product increasing at first stage. These 2, 3 are increasing, but when we coming to the second stage, total product increased, but decreasing rate. That is why it is slowly downing. Decreasing rate, it is increased at the highest. When it is, at point C, it is highest. When it is the highest, average product decreases, marginal product 0. It becomes 0. Still, if we want to use more labor, then total product decreases, average product also decrease, comes down, but marginal product becomes, negative. That is negative. So here you have to, observe particularly why it is diminishing returns in from this, in agriculture sector. It is applicable to agriculture sector, as I said. So in this, law of variable proportions, we assumed that most of the factors of productions are fixed in the short run, because it is not possible to change the other factors due to short period of time. In the case of farmer, the land is fixed factor. The farmer is an employee or more, it can be varies. That is the reason why the labor is variable factor, that is changing factor. In the production process, factors of production, particularly the combined optimum combinations, they try to utilize. Whenever the factors of combination is exceeds to the optimum, then automatically the diminishing returns will come. So that is the another reason. According to John Robinson, the factors of production are not perfect substitutes. Factors of productions are not perfectly substitute. It is possible to substitute for labor for capital and capital for labor. That is infinitely. As a result, what will happen? Increase in the variable factor that leads to declines the returns or decreases the returns. There are various reasons. Particularly, this law of variable proportion is applicable to the only agriculture sector because land is fixed. If we employ more of variable factor, that is in a given fixed factor, that is land. When we increase additional unit of labor or factor that contributes to smaller amount into the total production or product. So agriculture sector does not provide any employment opportunity throughout the year. As a result, what will happen? The average cost of the production increases. This leads to diminishing the returns. When we are talking about the law of returns to scale, economies of scale, the law of returns to scale, particularly this concept of economies of scale, which are related to the long run. Long run is a time period which business can be, or firm can be complete flexibility in introducing various factors of production with different methods of production, scale up output, which are required. So in the long run, business firms produce increased quantities, outputs by increasing the employment of the factors of the production in the same proportion because they want to get profit. So there are law of returns to scale, the proportionate change in output due to changes in the all the inputs. All the inputs, why we are telling in the long run, all the variables are variable factors. So the law of returns to scale, which represents the proportionate change in the output, particularly that relates to the changes in the inputs. So there are different types of law of returns to scale: increasing returns, constant returns, and decreasing returns. When we talk about the increasing returns, if the proportionate change of output is more than the proportionate changes in the input, we call it as increasing returns. What does it mean? Whenever we are using inputs, that is capital and labor. For example, labor is using 5 units, capital is using 10 units. With the help of this, the output is 100 units. So the proportionate changes in the inputs is greater than the the output is more than the inputs. That is increasing returns to scale. Then constant returns to scale. If the proportionate change in output, which is equals to the proportionate change in the input, we call it as constant returns to scale. So this is constant returns to scale. Coming to the decreasing returns to scale, if the proportionate change in the output is lesser than the proportionate change in the inputs, we call it as decreasing returns to scale. We call it as decreasing returns to scale. This ratio, particularly between the proportionate change in output and the proportionate change in all the inputs, that is less than one. We have to remember. When increasing returns, that is greater than one. When constant returns, it is equals to one. When decreasing returns, the then it is the proportional change in all the inputs, that is less than one. That we have to remember. Coming to the economies of scale, the economies of scale, occur due to business firms, due to all the particularly fall in average cost that results increase in the size, either size of individual firm or size of the industry. The economies of scale, particularly the size of business firms, that may be measured in terms of modern machinery, production process, level of output, employment, which all are examples. These economies of scale, we can say, or we can categorize into two: internal economies and external economies. Internal economies and external economies. So the internal economies, there are economies occurred due to monopolize the business, particularly in the form of large size. These economies which are not open to the business firms, the size of the whose size is small, it may be farm or industry. There are various reasons are there. One is technological reasons. Large business firms, they employ heavy and they use modern technology for their production process. The modern machines generally are the installed production capabilities. So here, for example, in a sugar industry, that is large farms, along with the producing of sugar, install of machinery to produce molasses, which are by product of sugar. The revenue occurred to the large from the sale of the product, particularly improve the revenue positions of large farms compared to the other small farms, particularly operating in the sugar industry. Marginal reasons also there. So labor economy is also there. So due to large business, firms introduce division of labor. Each employee assigned to sustainable to his skills, hence so that the efficiency of workers will increase. Particularly this leads to increase the productivity and that fall in the average cost. As I said, managerial reasons also. Large scale production, generally we can see the production operates with different branches, particularly that branches is supervised by professionals with respect to skills and field. These professionals particularly know that experts that contribute more productivity. So improving the productivity, that leads to what will happen? Reducing the average cost of the production. So therefore, average cost and the production, that lesser than the particularly when we observe from the small firms. Financial economy is also there. Larger the business, the firms we known as financial institutions and the other prospective investors that in the market. Due to this, they can arise the resources at lower rate of interest and when they compare to the small business firms. and risk bearing also there. When we are talking about the external economies, these economies are occurred due to all business firms in the industry, due to increase in the size of the industry, particularly we known as external economies. These economies are often particularly we observe in business firms irrespective of size and individuals of the business firms. There are diseconomies of scale. When we observe diseconomies of scale, increase in the average cost of a farm due to increase in the size of that we call it as diseconomies of scale. To certain extent, we can observe if the size of the farm is moving towards the optimum level, then the increase in the size of the market is positive contribution to the that automatically average cost reduces. If the size of the farm that moves beyond the optimum, then many problems that creep, particularly in the production process. So some of these problems within the control of the business firms, because supervision of the production operations, some of the problems that may be beyond the control of business firm. So in this situation, the changes in the industrial policy, it may be that reservation, particularly the commodities to small scale industries. So this is suggest that there is a limit to the level of production process by business, increase in the size of the farm infinitively, that never guarantee reduction in the average cost of the farm. So increase in the size beyond the limit, more specifically beyond the optimum, inflict that more by that harm the rising the average cost. So due to it is adverse effect in the and vice versa. This is all about the returns to scale, types of returns to scale. I'm going to stop now.